MicroStrategy's $91 billion infinite money glitch is going global, folks. It's not just the United States that is realizing the true power of putting Bitcoin on your balance sheet, but it's also multiple countries in Asia, even one in the largest country in the world. So the infinite money glitch is going absolutely global. Bitcoin hoarder stock soars 4,800% in Japan on a crypto rally. So people are seeing the effects of holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet and what it all entails. So the man, the myth, the legend, friend of the program, Dylan LeClaire, is the brains behind Metaplanet and their Bitcoin strategy. So they're utilizing a bunch of different tactics. Not only are they utilizing, hey, buying Bitcoin and putting it on the balance sheet, they're using that Sailor infinite money glitch, the coveted MicroStrategy flywheel that I know and love and show to you guys nearly every single live stream. But if you look here, you can see that Metaplanet, when they started employing and buying this Bitcoin strategy, that they're now up over 4,800%, right? That's 1,000%, not 480%, folks. It's 4,800%. So it's absolutely skyrocketing, and people are taking notice here. People are really seeing the true power of Michael Saylor and this infinite money glitch that he's employing here. But I think the unique aspect is that it's not just in the United States, that it's all over the world here. Metaplanet is one of the largest companies now in Japan. So its shares have surged over 4.8% in a year's time just because they've been stockpiling Bitcoin. So they've drawn the idea from hearing about Michael Saylor's strategy. The company has reported a 350 million yen in operating profit since December 2024. And after 6 straight years of losses, now it is earning money. So would you look at that, folks? It's like magic in a bottle, putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet here. You go from losing money for 6 straight years, potentially ending your entire company, and now you've got Bitcoin, which is the life raft. You're able to continue and extend that runway even farther. But it's not just Metaplanet, right? I mean, we have Metaplanet changing their website, adding Bitcoin to their website, the branding, the similar branding that they've seen from Michael Saylor and Strategy. Now that it is not MicroStrategy anymore, it's just Strategy with the Bitcoin B logo. We've got all of these companies embracing Bitcoin, even putting Bitcoin on their website, right? If you go to metaplanet.jp, which is this right here, you see they got the Bitcoin ticker price. They got the entire world here with Bitcoin. They are investing heavily into the Bitcoin ecosystem, really sticking their foot down in here, right? So they have their stock price gaining a bunch of traction. All these different articles now are picking up Metaplanet. More people know about Metaplanet than ever before. And it's all about the publicity that Bitcoin and putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet has given them. In fact, I had no idea who Metaplanet was prior to this move. Hand up. I'm sorry. I didn't know. But, you know, with all this publicity, with the massive surge that we're seeing in their stock price, I think it's no surprise that we're seeing more and more companies start to want to adopt this, right? Because not only are we seeing the stock price surge, and not only are we seeing people across the globe really take notice, they're able to raise massive amounts of money doing this, right? So look at this here. They have a market cap of 350 million yen, I believe it is, in Japan, and they're able to raise over $700 million to buy Bitcoin. What they're planning to raise is 745 million to fund their Bitcoin purchases, aiming for 21,000 Bitcoin by 2026 as part of its strategy to be the leader in Japan as far as putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet, right? So the unique aspect of all of this, right, is that the techniques that these companies are using allows them to use traditional financial tools in order to buy Bitcoin for extremely cheap capital, where you're essentially going to get this money for, look, a 0% discount moving strike warrants, which means essentially they're getting a bunch of money up front for 0%. So they've got to pay off these loans eventually, sure, but it's a bank on Bitcoin that Bitcoin's going to outperform this loan within a few years' time. They're going to be able to sustain this debt and be able to reach those cash flows. And they fully believe that Bitcoin is going to be more valuable over time. Now, that's where I think it is very important. But on the other side of things, Jet King, another giant in India, the world's largest country, folks, 1.5 billion with a B people live in this single country. They are now the first publicly traded company in India to adopt the Bitcoin standard, right? So Bitcoin Ltd, now they're changing their logo to orange, and they are even touting it here, right? They're the first publicly traded in India company in India to develop a Bitcoin standard. Now, why do I think that this is significant? It's because the Asian markets, usually you think of the hubs, the crypto hubs, right? Singapore, maybe the Koreas, and maybe China, maybe Japan, looking at this forward-thinking type of movements. But India has just such a large population here with 1.5 billion people, and Jet King being one of the largest companies by market cap here in India. And so Jet King, it's interesting, right? Because the market cap is 4.58 or 45.8 crore rupees, right? So I mean, your guess is as good as mine. There's so many different fiat currencies around the world here, but long story short, it's a very large company in the largest country in the world, 1.5 billion people here, right? So on top of that, we're seeing more companies in the United States start to buy Bitcoin. I mean, I think at a certain point in time, it's every single company, every single country in the world that has a publicly traded market is going to have some MicroStrategy, some sort of MicroStrategy, right? It seems like in Japan, that's going to be Metaplanet. It seems like in India, that's going to be Jet King. And the US is going to have a lot of copycats here, where we're going to see like companies like KULR. Their Bitcoin holdings are now to 610. They're an energy company, an energy management platform, and they've increased their Bitcoin purchases, which I think is absolutely just validating to the fact of what Michael Saylor is doing here. And I think more people are seeing the benefit of holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. You know, if you look at the bitcointreasuries.com, you can see that there's 122 or 123, excuse me, entities that now hold Bitcoin, whether it's publicly traded companies. We've got MicroStrategy, a lot of Bitcoin companies, but outside of this, we also have a lot of companies that are not necessarily on Bitcoin companies, right? So, I mean, we have Hive, we have HUD-8, we have some of these mining companies that are holding it, some Bitcoin specific groups. But I think the unique part of all of this is we're seeing more tech companies start to come in and hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet because they're seeing the importance of it, right? So if they're able to sustain those debt payments, the coveted debt payments, and then they're able to continue that path forward, they are able to keep buying Bitcoin, keep buying an appreciating asset going forward here. And with all of that, you will see more companies adopt it as we're seeing companies get more successful with it. As you're seeing these market caps shoot to the moon, as many people love to say here. And I think this is an absolutely great chart here tweeted out by Michael Saylor, because remember, as Kanye West here said, he's like, remember, I'm only X amount of days into the year. We're what 30 or 42 days into the year, and we're looking at MicroStrategy's Bitcoin yield year to date 4.1%, yield in 2024 74%. Yield of the quarter, 4.1%. Obviously, it's the same from year to date to quarter at this point. But look at how much they're gaining. They're gaining nearly 20,000 Bitcoin. They're looking at it in Bitcoin price and opposed to Bitcoin, or opposed to dollar price. They're looking at all of these different metrics here, and they're continuing to stack and double down on Bitcoin. right? So let's take a peek at the chat as I got my man Down Under Blue saying, full disclosure, I'm holding a small bag of MSTR that seems to complement my large bag of Bitcoin. Hey, look, I don't hold any MicroStrategy, but I should be. I mean, I'm kicking myself. MicroStrategy is fully outperforming Bitcoin, and it seems to be a leveraged play on Bitcoin, right? Because of their ability to continue to stack. And we're seeing it with all these different stocks, right? If you're looking for fiat gains, I mean, the numbers don't lie here, right? We're seeing MicroStrategy shoot up more than Bitcoin. We're seeing Metaplanet do that. All these companies that are adding value and continuing to stack Bitcoin, there's no denying the results here. And like my man Down Under Blues is also saying, gold is down today from their all-time high yesterday. Gold front ran Bitcoin before its last move for a higher price of Bitcoin. The hash rate is also at an all-time high for Bitcoin, which front runs the Bitcoin price. Yeah, and I agree with you there, Down Under Blues. We're looking at a Bitcoin price that's a little bit down, right, from the all-time high. It's at 97,000 here. But, I mean, we're sitting pretty. We're sitting pretty with all of these underlying factors here. I've been recording a bunch of videos on all this bullish news. We got companies coming onto a Bitcoin standard. We got nation states coming onto a Bitcoin standard. We've got sovereign wealth funds now starting to come onto a Bitcoin standard. And then we've got things like the hash rate starting to explode. We've got other things starting to really kick up. And so because we have all of these other factors, the one macro factor I believe holding this down is the M2 money supply is really not on the rise and rise up. So let me see if I can get that chart here. Unfortunately, I need oh no, here we go. The global money supply, looking at the overall Bitcoin price. So the global money supply seems to fairly evenly track the Bitcoin price here, right? So unfortunately, I think I need to get the Pro to get the recent data. But if you look at it here, right, it seems to be tracking fairly evenly. And I believe if we were to get this data, it would be tracking fairly closely to the Bitcoin price. And as you could see, it is pretty correlated. When you see these little dips or these rise ups, it's because of the money supply increasing. Not entirely, right? Not 100% because of that, but I think it is a good chart to look at. And that is usually where you see money start to be dumped into things like tech stocks a little bit more recently, like Tesla, Nvidia, these types of stocks, opposed to just the Bitcoin. But I think as Down Under Blue saying, no doubt Fed needs to stop QT and start QE. M2 money supply is king. And that actually kind of leads me into a recent interview I had my man Larry Lepard. If you guys haven't checked that out, it's at this channel. Check it out here afterwards. But he just wrote a book about the big print. He's one of the best in the business, and he's talking about essentially the need for the government to continue to print in order to sustain everything going on here, in order to sustain what we've got here. But let's get back to the point at hand. We've got Metaplanet, which has raised or planning to raise $700 million. A small little company is able to raise this amount of money in order to buy Bitcoin and put it on the balance sheet. And that's a big part because of the success that we've seen in its stock price. You guys know and love this chart here. It looks exponential, right? So Financial Times is absolutely covering something like Metaplanet, and it probably wouldn't have done this previously unless we've seen these massive results. Right. So these things are absolutely big for other copycats to come on board. We've seen MicroStrategy shoot up even with the Bitcoin price just kind of crab walking here, because holding anything else on the balance sheet, holding fiat currency on the balance sheet, just waiting cash reserves, you all know that is going to be depleting 2% at a minimum, right? So one of my favorite charts that I love to show is Govflation. .com if you guys ever want to check it out, and I'll pull it up here. But it's great because it shows the amount of CPI relative to 1982. So before the first time they changed it, I believe, was 1987, following the move off of that gold standard. And so you can see it here, right, folks? We're still sitting at, what is it, 10.67% in December of last year. So inflation isn't coming down. And the perception is that, hey, we are looking at, low inflation. It's at 2.9%. We're just over that 3% target. So they're going to need some sort of print. But as we all know, the fiat currencies really just ruin all kinds of industries. One of those big industries that I believe fiat currency has absolutely ruined because of the incentives is the health insurance industry. That's why I've partnered up with Crowd Health. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you don't necessarily have, if you want to get out of the fiat rat race, join Crowd Health. Go to joincrowdhealth.com. You can go here. They can help you find awesome doctors, negotiate your bills, and fund those through a peer-to-peer funding platform for less. In my experience with the Crowd Health team, I have, paid less money by going to the doctor, doing all these different things by using Crowd Health, opposed to when I would actually use insurance. So it seems kind of backwards, but you don't necessarily need that health insurance. You can sign up for less, and they will help you. All you need is access to a US bank account, and they can get you started. And you can go from there. Join Andy and the team, both Luke, and then producer Ben, who might be sitting back there, all have Crowd Health as well. So you guys can join the team and we can help us out. But back to what everybody's saying here. We got my man All Night Hider here, who always says smoke the like Cheech and Chong. So welcome. He says strong dollar and high oil would definitely force more QE, I think is what he's implying here. If I'm incorrect, let me know. All-nighter hider, excuse me. But I definitely could see this as something that's, definitely going to happen, right? I mean, we're looking at the petrodollar and those kind of aspects, right? But what Trump is doing, I think, is going to be very interesting. We're seeing a lot of tariffs being put on different countries, and that's going to force other countries to operate in some other manner, and keep that dollar a little bit stronger. Now, even with a strong dollar, if we start buying Bitcoin and putting on the balance sheet for the United States, I think it's going to get absolutely bonkers. I don't see a way where we could get that dollar down to such a weak level where we'll see things absolutely skyrocket just because of the weak dollar. Now, we could see all of their fiat currencies absolutely go less. I think we're seeing hash rate climb to an all-time high, and we're seeing a lot of other factors where you might not necessarily need that M2 money supply to go all the way up and go bonkers to get Bitcoin to rise to where we all think it would be. So I don't necessarily agree where we need a weaker dollar. I think that, with the macro factors, looking at Bitcoin potentially being put on as a strategic reserve, we're seeing more companies put Bitcoin on the balance sheet and a lot of different aspects. I think that, to be honest, we don't necessarily need QE to see Bitcoin shoot up, but we haven't had a lot of these buys happen just yet, right? So it's been more of a buy the rumors, sell the news sort of aspect here right now, where we haven't seen that strategic reserve pass. Let's actually look at the poly market here to see where the Bitcoin strategic reserve in 2025. They're actually getting more bearish on it, right? So, I mean, I think last time we were seeing this and talking about all this, we were seeing like a 65% chance when I reported it last, and now we're down to a 41% chance. So it's less likely than not that we would see a strategic reserve in 2025. So I don't know if we'll see one from the full United States, but it looks like we'll see one from at least a few of the states in the United States. So I think that'll be interesting. So Down Under Blues is saying, actually, we need more dollars, not necessarily a weaker dollar. That's an interesting little point, interesting little caveat here, because I think, we're seeing a lot of, I guess, backdoor QE, right? So we think about money printing and all these different things as, QE, so to speak. But another way of QE, or quantitative easing, is lowering interest rates, and Trump wants lower interest rates. So when we lower interest rates, money is going to become the Bitcoin price shoot up. So, as Higher Calling is saying, Trump is with the bankers. I don't necessarily think that's the case, to be honest with you. I think that we're seeing Bitcoin or we're seeing Trump get in with a kind of against it. I did a video yesterday about Trump filing for these Bitcoin ETFs because I think he might be against Davos and BlackRock and all these other people creating Bitcoin ETF products. So that's where I think that he's a little bit different than the bankers. But as my man All Nighter Hider said, smoke that like Cheech and Chong. I might do another live stream for you guys later today. So be tuned for that. And thank you guys all for coming in. Hit that like and hit that subscribe button. Smoke it like Cheech and Chong. And watch that interview with Larry Lepard. It's absolutely electric. Spam the candles in the chat. And I will see you guys all at the next one.